And welcome to Conscious Vibe, your host, your brother, Melvin X. Graham. You know, you can't have a discussion on black marriage without having, you know, the most important aspect of black marriage. That's the black woman. Today, I put together a women's forum where we can talk about marriage. Um, it's so important that we have this discussion because not only are our relationships, supposed to have what you call a destination or should I say a goal. However, every relationship comes down to that one important thing, and that is where is it going or is it going to be about marriage? Well, in our case today, across the globe in America, we have a lot of relationships that don't ultimately shall I say, lead to marriage. So, to address a lot of these issues that are going on in the black community, to address a lot of issues that are, should I say, marriage issues, even not just black, but marriage issues across the board, we're going to have a discussion. And with me here in the studio, I have Ruthie Q.
Hi, how are you?
Oh yeah, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Coming to my platform to have such an epic discussion. And with me on the line, I have Joy calling in from.
Hey, how y'all doing?
There she is. Very well. Thank you, Joy, for being on the show. It's an honor to have you here to have this discussion with me.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Joy, I'll start with you first since you're calling in. Can you let the Conscious Vibe listeners know who you are and how can they, shall I say, follow you on your platform as well?
Okay, well, I am a new mother, so, and I'm also a
Congratulations.
blogger. But right now I'm on maternity leave still, but yes, I am a blogger. You can find a lot of my writings on exonicole.com, or you can find the rest of them on my own blog, which I have not domained yet. Joy said it. You'll find me.
Awesome, awesome. And with me here is Ruthie Q. Please introduce yourself to the Conscious Vibe listeners and what you're about and your platform on which they can
Okay.
spot you.
My name is Ruthie Q, and you can always look me up on ruthieq.com. That's RUTHIEQ.com. And I have many things on there. I am the author of two books. One is for the woman specifically, and helping her to get to a level of freedom and healing in her life. So you can definitely pick up a copy of that. That is named Journey, and I go through my journey towards freedom. Like I said, ruthieq.com. Also, I have a platform called the Entrepreneurs Corner where I empower entrepreneurs to get to their level of success. And you can follow me on the platform that the you can look me up on Facebook, and I put one on there every day. But the platform for the podcast is podbean.com, and you would just put in Ruthie Q and you would follow my podcast and get to your level of success.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So we're going to dive right into the questions. You know what I mean? I know a lot of the Conscious Vibe listeners and watchers out there, they want to know what this show is really going to entail. So other than just, should I say, keep the people waiting, let me jump right into the first question. So I'm going to go into this one. So I think it's very important. According to the U.S. Census, only 45% of African American households have a married couple, a contrast to 70% among Hispanics and 80% for whites. Why do you think there's such a contrast? I'll start with you, Joy. What is your
Well,
position on that?
I think just in me being a military member or a veteran, I got to see that a lot of that came from, like, you have second or third generation people who come over to the United States with these cultural norms where people ask the question, hey, how are you going to help the family, not just your nuclear family, but also your extended family if you get married? These are real conversations that we have second and third generation immigrants really having when they come here. But I also think that for black people, we've had such a disintegration of the black family. That number is lower because the black male has been taken out of the household in a lot of senses. I mean, look at mass incarceration. Mass incarceration literally snatched black men out of the household. So you had a lot of black women who, if they were married, how would they benefit from it when you have a spouse who is incarcerated? Then you have also black unemployment, which really, really contributes to the conversation of why black people aren't getting married. You know, unemployment accounts for more than 30% of the black among black the black community as a whole. Black men face higher unemployment rates even as young men. So there's this culture that our public servants aren't serving us well, aren't serving our communities well. So we do have a lot of that is, like I said, can be contributed to black men being unemployed and being taken out of the household. So I think that's a large part of it.
Right, and that's a great point because when it comes to black males being unemployed, black males being in a, should I say, economic disadvantage, it really does, in a lot of ways, make it challenging for black men to even consider marriage as a option in some cases. And me as a black man myself, and being an entrepreneur, and also going through a lot of economical woes in terms of trying to get jobs that will give me adequate pay that is, should I say, suitable for my skill sets. I understand what a lot of black men are going through out here as well. But it's not about me, it's about the women, it's about the black woman. So I'm going to step aside and let Ruthie Q have her say in this matter.
Okay. So there is a contrast between the different races. However, I don't necessarily attribute it to the black male being incarcerated.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I think that marriages is what you make it to be. But I also think that we did not, the black male, the black female, we did not get the examples
Right.
that growing up we didn't get those examples. And if you date back 100 years, 50 years from now, we didn't get those examples of black marriages in a home.
Right.
Whereas some of the other races, they, even now you'll see that they are married and they've been married for 40 and 50 years, whereas you don't see that very often in black homes. And I think it's because of the examples that were set in Hispanic homes. They are taught that family, 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 family comes first, and that's why they've pulled together in some instances to make those marriages work no matter what they went through. And I believe that in the black community that we didn't get those examples growing up so much. So I think that's why there's such a contrast in marriages being, I guess, prevalent in the black home.
From race to race, that's why the marriage, that's why
Right.
the, should I say, the outlook on marriage is different.
Absolutely.
Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, we look at society, we look at how, should I say, even black families are shown on television.
Hmm.
Outside the Cosby Show, outside of the Winslows and Family Matters,
Absolutely.
outside of Good Times with the Evans, you know what I mean? We have not seen a, should I say, a large portion of should I say, greatness when it comes to black families
Hmm.
as shown on television.
Right.
And I think that's a problem. I just don't believe when it comes to black culture in America. I don't see where family is seen in a positive light overall.
Right.
So I think you're touching on a
Yeah.
very high point when you say that. And Joy, you would agree, right?
Not completely, but I do see what you're saying. I think for a large, I think we had a generational shift. During the 50s, 60s, and say even sometimes in the 70s, black families really stood, like got married. You heard of people being married for 35, 40 years and so on and so forth. You did hear a lot about that, but I think as we started shifting toward the crack epidemic, and I hate to even bring that up, but the crack epidemic really helped disintegrate the black family, and those things that those examples that we wanted to be set, they were literally torn down by what was happening within our communities. And from that, like I think that's when we go into mass incarceration and families, being torn apart. But those examples came from somewhere, and mostly they came from what was going on within our community, intra-community, what was happening with us, and our community was slowly being eroded. And there's a reason for those examples not being set. And as you look really, then you'll see white families are starting to go through the same thing right now with the heroin epidemic.
Right. Right. That's a beautiful point. Now, one thing we can't discount, and that is the crack epidemic. Another thing we can't discount is mass incarceration, the prison industrial complex, because ultimately, when you look at, shall I say, the war on drugs, where we start to see black men locked up wholesale in terms of some of the smaller charges, like possession charges, where a black man, because he has a nickel bag of marijuana to be specific, you know, a black man shouldn't
Hmm.
get 10 years for that. You know what I mean? Where you
No,
see
they shouldn't.
people who aren't black who get caught with the same type of possession, you know, they're out in a matter of months. You know, they only get fined, or for instance, they get a low level of discipline, and that is a problem, because once again, you know, we're seeing a lot of families broken because of economic issues, because of incarceration issues. But you know what? I'm gonna press pause for a second. We're gonna take a break, and we're gonna come right back with some more questions. And you're listening to Conscious Vibe on KBOKRadio.com. That's the new KBOKRadio.com. Log on, check it out. It's a brand new website, beautiful logo, nice, sleek, and clean design. Check it out, KBOKRadio.com. I'm your brother and your host, Melvin X Graham, and we'll be right back. It's not that I have a clock. It's just like, I mean, in my head, I was like, okay, I know we gotta do that break real quick, so let me get that in. um,
So are we going back to this question, or are we
yeah, we're gonna go back. We're gonna touch
continue?
back on that
Okay.
question. So I know you need to get your piece
Okay.
in. I gave her a second run. I'm
Okay.
gonna give you a second run,
Okay.
and then we'll move on. Joy, good stuff. I greatly appreciate it. Ruthie, you know you're natural at this. You have your own podcast. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
I know you're doing your thing.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
to all the followers on Facebook, thank you. What you are watching right now is a segment of my show that I like to share before we go actually live on Saturdays on KBOKRadio.com from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. Please be able to watch the show. I'm going to actually have Ruthie, continue her end of this particular question, and then I'm gonna ask another question, and then I'm going to go off of Facebook because I want you to be able to listen to the show on Saturday. But while I'm at it, and before we go right back into the show, I just want to say that I had a lot on my mind this week. It's really been a stressful week. But you know, one of the things I want to tell all the Facebook followers out there that are watching, I just want to say, you know, you gotta get back on your grind, no matter what goes on in your life, no matter what, you know, what type of trip ups or slip ups you have going on. You know, get on your grind, do what you have to do. And me being an entrepreneur, me being a person who works hard, who works diligently on my craft, I'm just saying we gotta keep it moving, no matter what. So um, let's get right back into it. Let's get back to Conscious Vibe. All right. And we're back with Conscious Vibe. Your host, your brother, Melvin X Graham. And with me, like I said before, I have uh, my co-host and in-house guest, Ruthie Q, my co-host for the day, that is. And also on the line, we have Joy, and we're talking about black marriage or marriage overall. So we left off at the comparison of households in terms of marriage, and we're going to continue this because Ruthie Q, she has to give her second part of it, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Now, earlier I spoke about it being, or as not having the example as we were growing up. But I also feel like we're always, as black people, sometimes, we're always looking for something to blame it on. So we're looking at the crack epidemic. We're looking at incarceration. We're looking at the unemployment rate in the black community. We're blaming that on that. I believe that it's for the generation now to really, even though we did not have the example, it's up to us to take that, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
and turn it into something else and increase these statistics and turn the US Census around for the black home.
Okay.
So instead of just blaming it on something, let's stop just blaming it and trying to pinpoint somewhere to put why we're not having successful marriages.
Okay. So I understand that you don't want to put blame on anything. So I know what blame can be. Blame has a very negative connotation.
Mhm.
Blame is the absence of responsibility,
Right.
right? So how about we deal with the root of some of the issues. So when we talk about mass incarceration, it's not that we're blaming white folk or we're blaming, it's not that we're blaming white folks overall or anyone outside the black community. We're blaming a systematic effort that is resulting into mass amounts of black men. We're talking about a system that's resulting into not having the male and female family structure to raise children.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
or shall I say, male and female being married so they can have children or to have a family. So I want to clarify. I'm not saying that we should blame anyone outside the black community, but we definitely have to blame a system that is very, shall I say, adamant in making sure that black marriages or, for that instance, black families don't happen. Would you at least agree with that part?
Not completely. Not completely,
Okay.
because I don't believe that it is a system per se that is causing these woes in the community. I don't
Oh,
believe that. I believe that they are, I'm just going to call them as they are, they're decisions that we're making as African American people.
as decisions, that's in how.
I believe that incarceration is not necessarily about just throwing the black men in prison. I believe that they're decisions that we're making. And it may be the economic structure that is causing us to make those, or them to make those decisions, but the bottom line is when you really look at it, they are decisions.
Okay. All right. So I don't want this.
Poor decisions at
Oh,
that.
okay. I don't want this. Okay. I'm not gonna make this a back and forth between you and I because we have another
Okay.
guest on. Joy, please chime in on this one. Do you agree with Ruthie Q on this particular issue, or you see it different?
I think that there is yeah, I do agree that there is a level of personal responsibility. Yes, you should want to take care of your family by any means necessary. And yeah, that does go into the examples that we set. Um, but I also think that, blame, it really is a hard word because in our instance as African Americans, we've, we haven't, how can I put it? We've so I shall say we've been promised so much and gotten so little. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we have even when Lyndon B. Johnson created the 1964 Civil Rights Act, or not excuse me, not 64, Civil Rights Act, the Housing Act. I mean that alone helped to strengthen families. But I mean, even then, he had to switch the ties in order to make America think that this was a great idea. Like you said, I mean, as much as, I think that, yeah, blame is a strong word, at the same time, we haven't been given our just due. We haven't been
There you go.
given what we've been promised by a lot of people who promise to help strengthen our community. Yes,
Okay.
it's up to us to help us strengthen our nuclear family, but it takes a village. And if this village is sitting there if you have somebody from the village every month saying, or every election year saying, hey, take a chance. Why not? You have nothing to lose, and yet we're not getting anything back. Then that's not blame. That's holding the other person or the people who promise to help you accountable. Does that make sense? Like, you know what I mean? Like, look at even our president. Our president said that, hey, I'm going to do some more for HBCUs. Oh, that's great. Education actually helps black people get married. That's even more wonderful. But what did he do the first chance that, he had the opportunity to help African Americans? Zero.
Great point. Great point.
And that is systemic of what happens a lot.
All right. So we're gonna come back to this question again, because I already can tell that Ricky Q has some more to say. But Sean, I know you're. I mean, Joy. I'm sorry. Shantae, Joy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know your time is limited, so I need to get this question in because this is very important. This for both of you too,
Okay.
Ruthie. And then
Okay.
then you and I can have this discussion about the other question. So I know you're
Okay.
gonna try to go in, and I'm gonna let you get yours in, and I'm gonna have my part too.
Okay.
However, so the next question, Joy. So from your vantage point, what are some of the greatest challenges or the great challenges that a black woman is faced with when it comes to marriage?
Obviously, I think that it's getting married because black women are least likely to be married. We're the one racial group that's least likely to get married, yet we have the most education. I think that the greatest vantage point when it comes to marriage and black women, honestly, is staying married. I agree with Ruthie on that. We got to stay married, but no longer do we hear we hear people being married for 35, 40, 45 years, and maybe a lot of that is systemic to our own personal growth as black women. Maybe that does have to do with black women and therapy and black women doing self-care and making sure that we're taken care of so that the rest of the family is taken care of. Maybe that is the case. I think that's a great thing about this. A great thing about our generation is that we have actual social media following, and social media is helping to bring these issues to the forefront so we can help black women stay married because two incomes, no matter what anybody say, is better than one.
I think Ruthie would agree with that, and I know I agree with that. Ruthie, please.
I do agree that two incomes are better than one, but I can only speak about my marriage specifically because I am a black woman and I have been married for 11 going on 12 years. And when you talk about the challenges that a black woman is faced with when it comes to marriage, I do not believe that even though statistics may say something different, I do not believe that we are the least married group. I don't, because I think that when it comes to marriage, it's what you put into the marriage. Of course, I've had challenges in my marriage, but it's how you. Um, a lot of times in marriage, we as people, and I won't just say black women or black men or women, or I won't just say that, but I think that when it comes to challenges, we're not willing to put up the fight. We're not willing to put in the commitment. I heard one time that everyone wants to get in the car when it's riding smooth, but once you start feeling that moving around and that shifting in the marriage, are you going to stay in the car? And I think that when it comes to that, we look at those as challenges, but they're not challenges in the marriage. It's how much of yourself are you willing to put into this marriage? How much are you willing
Hmm.
to put into the commitment that you've made? Because we don't take that seriously anymore. And that's not just in the black home, that's in every single demographic. We don't
It's true.
take marriage seriously like we should.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Preach.
And go
Preach.
ahead, Joy. I know you had something to say. I'm listening.
No, I agree with it. I was actually at a little Holy Ghost, but I agree. I do agree, but I think that again, we have to get to the root of those problems. And staying married, I agree. We do have to. Personal responsibility accounts for a lot. Will you stay in that car, like you
Right.
mentioned? Will you stay in there no matter what happens to it? If it needs a new engine, are you going to buy a new engine? Or are you going to go out and buy a new Camaro? You know what I mean? It
Oh,
makes
totally,
sense.
totally. You know, because
But
it's
we also,
exactly.
again, though, I do have to agree that we as Black women, we've been hurt, and we have the shared experiences of hurt. I don't like to generalize, but I can say that most of the Black women that I met throughout my lifetime, we really do have the shared experience of hurt, and we do have to get back to fixing that hurt again, even if it requires fixing ourselves so that the rest of our family could be okay. I think that's just as important too when talking about marriage. Yeah, you want to get out the car, but do you have a, do you yourself have an extra key for that car? Do you yourself
That's
have the
real.
money to pay for insurance or pay for an extra car? You know what I mean? Like, what else are you bringing to the table and not necessarily expecting the other person to bring the table too. You have to be okay before everybody else can be okay. And that's just what I learned as a married woman.
You know, and that makes a lot of sense. And as a black man, and I'm not a woman, so this is why I'm letting you two have more to say in terms of the topic than myself. And I'm just asking questions. But to chime in a bit, the reason why I would say, and this is a little contrary to what you're saying, Ruthie, in a
Okay.
way, uh, you gotta look at the statistics of how when it comes to black women not being married versus any other woman in a racial tree. You gotta understand something. When it comes to misogyny, when it comes to the outlook of black women, you have black women, the black woman, the most beautiful woman on the planet, in my humble opinion, who is over sexualized,
Mhm.
who is
Mhm.
totally, should I say, overlooked when it comes to being seen as one of the most intelligent women. Even though you look at the rates of education in terms of educational success, black women are right there with white women and Asian women and everyone else, if not even superseding them in a way when it comes
Mhm.
to the educational part. But even with that being the case, black women are still the most over sexualized. Black women are still, shall I say, some of the most, um, shall I say, marginalized in the workforce.
Mhm.
So when it comes
Mhm.
to the marriage and the marriage wing of it, it's just that the black woman is not being made to be appealing in terms to being one that should be married, and that's the issue I think is going on when it comes to that dynamic of black men not choosing uh, or should I say, engaging in relationships with black women to get married. I think that's part of it. It's the appeal and how America sees the black
Mhm.
woman. I think that has a lot to do with
I do agree with
True.
some of what you are saying, but I also think that it goes back to um, the woman is not just, it's not a black white thing, but I believe that, like Joy said, that it is that we are hurt, and that's why we're not able to move on into these successful relationships because of that hurt. But I also believe that when we talk about that hurt, we have to go back to, I was just talking to someone today, we have to go back to our value and our worth. And I believe that we're not seeing our own value and our own worth in everything that we reach out for, whether it's marriage, whether it's in the workforce. We're not seeing our own value. So it comes back to us not seeing that value. So if we take a step back, I believe that when women are hurt, they're willing to. You said they're the most sexualized,
it. Right, over sexualized.
over
Right.
sexualized. So I believe that it that hurt that Joy was talking about, and us not seeing our own value and our
Mm-hmm.
worth, it kind of opens the door for all of those things. So I mean, I believe that that's what it really comes down to is, what is your value, what is your worth in reaching towards marriage, reaching towards a successful relationship? What is that value? What do you bring to the table? What can you offer to someone? And what will you stand for or not stand for?
Awesome point. Joy, I know you have to go shortly, so I'm gonna let you get your piece in, and we'll sign you out and have you give the Conscious Vibe listeners how they can keep in touch with you and follow you. But before you do all that, let's have you, shall I say, give your piece as well. Joy, you still there? I think we lost her. Well, okay. Well, that's fine. We're gonna. This is being recorded anyway, and we'll replay it. And I will also put out her information for all the Conscious Vibe listeners to be able to follow up with her and check out on her platform as well. But Joy, if you are watching, thank you so much for being on my show. You've been a great addition, and like I said, all the Conscious Vibe listeners will be able to contact you and also keep up with the things that you're doing. So you do, because you do great work and you're an awesome sister. Thank you so much, Ruthie. So now you and I can have our sparring session.
Okay. Let me get comfortable.
Not even a sparring session, because I really do appreciate you being here.
Mm-hmm.
I really am very much enlightened by a lot of the answers that you've given to the questions and your insight. However, with all the props given to you there, when it comes to the census again, and I know you wanted to touch back on that again.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't agree with the households in terms of how the reasoning behind why, should I say, black marriages aren't as successful as others.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily agree with the reasoning behind it, being the crack epidemic,
Mm-hmm.
mass incarceration. Well, with those being knocked out of the way, would you at least agree that economically black people are at a disadvantage, and that has a great deal to do with the unsuccessfulness of black marriage?
I believe that some black people are at a disadvantage, economically, but I believe that, one of the things that I always tell people is that people always say, "Oh, I'm waiting to get married until I am financially stable. I'm waiting to get married until I'm this, that, and the other." And they come up with all of these excuses, as I like to put them.
Excuses. Okay.
And the reason I say that, and I don't mean that negatively, but what I mean by that is I call them excuses because I believe that marriage is what you make it to be. And I also believe that with your economic structure,
Right.
it can be what it is. When I got married, we weren't these rich people, or we weren't, we were in a financial place. But if we were waiting until we were both financially stable to get to that place that we could afford a marriage, and I'm putting the air quotes, afford a marriage, then we would have never gotten married. That's what people say when they're trying to have children, or when they're trying to do many things. And I think that we are at a disadvantage sometimes because of the economic structure, but I believe that is what you make it to be. I believe that it's how much work you're willing to put in. And I believe that when it comes to different races, sometimes they're willing to put in more than the African American community. And that's why it's our job to change that mindset in our African American community.
Okay, so, and by the way, I do have Joy back on. Joy, you're still back. You're still on, correct?
Yes, I'm still on. I'm sorry. My phone call dropped.
Hey.
Oh, maybe I should go with Verizon.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay. No problem. We're glad that you're back with us, and we can keep the convo going. That's not a problem. So, you said a very great thing here, and maybe we should go back and check this one part out that you said, whereas maybe the other races of people in America should I say, look at marriage, should I say, not only have a different outlook on marriage, but they take marriage more seriously?
It's not that they take marriage more seriously, but I believe that sometimes some other races, and I'm not saying that the African American community does not take marriage seriously.
There we go. That's all I
I'm
wanted
not
to know.
saying that. Um, I'm not saying that there aren't successful marriages in the African American
Of course, right.
community. What I'm saying is, we are not. We're not. Sometimes we're not. I think it all is all encompassing because we don't see that value in it sometimes, and that's why I say we're blaming this, we're blaming that, we're waiting on our economic structure to get better. We're waiting on all of these things, and we'll be waiting for years to come because everything's not going to line up. Whereas some other races, it's a possibility that, they're just. I mean, and I'm not going to say that all other races have successful marriages that are flourishing marriages. There may be many things that are happening in their marriages that they're willing to weather, like cheating, like
Okay.
whatever the case.
It's a lot of reasons.
But
Right.
many reasons.
Right.
But I believe that we don't always see the value in it, and I believe that two African Americans sticking together, there's value in that from the very beginning, and we don't see it all the time.
I agree with that. It's a lot of value, in my humble opinion, saying the black man and woman, take on marriage and all the challenges that go with it, and sticking with it.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of value with that.
And it's your job and my job
both
to
right.
let them see that.
Right. There's a balance there, and there's a shared commitment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that has to take place. However, since I have Joy back on, I'm gonna give her this question, then I come back to you.
Okay.
According to Black, should I say, demographics.com, black women have greater college graduation rates. Also, the median income fell to 12% for black men and rose to 75% for black women. With this being such a wide margin in comparison to black men, Joy, do you believe black men and women are becoming more incompatible? Now we're talking about economics. Do you think economics, essentially, do you believe that economics is causing black men and women to be incompatible? What's your take on that, Joy?
I think that there's a lot of truth in that, in those statistics. There's a lot of truth in it. On the surface, yeah, when you first read it, you see, yeah, that economically there is a shift. And yeah, economics does give you a leg up, but the truth is that education honestly really is statistically even proven the best way for people to even get married and stay married. People tend to marry on their same educational levels. And while black men, there are black men that make a lot of money, maybe $100,000 or more, there's still a small, they still make a small, relatively small portion of the population. But I think that also that there's with this generation, we're seeing a shift. Even though that there's an economic disadvantage, black people still have most of the buying power in this country. We could really just support our own and start businesses. You know what I mean? It may take a shift in thinking, but I think that I never think that we're incompatible as black people in any sense. But I think that, this allows for us to shift our thinking of what black economics really looks like. You know what I mean? Most black women, a lot of black women are more likely to have government jobs. That creates security. Now, if we can get more black men collectively to start businesses, we will probably be a force, But it might have to take a shift in thinking. It might even take, and with social media and the internet, we're able to start businesses online and no one ever see our face and not really even know that, a black person is running this company, which is great, that it gives us a leg up economically. in some senses, and that's a whole other conversation we get into.
No,
But we
that's a good
could,
point.
I think that there's a lot of truth in the statement that you presented and those statistics too.
Okay, certainly. And so while we're on the topic of economics, and you both of you two were able to give very sound information in terms of the question, in terms of what black people are dealing with financially or economically. Now, you know, a lot of brothers probably want me to ask this question, and I'm on a hot seat right now because I have two beautiful, intelligent black women here. I know they're going. I know you two are not going to, shall I say, shortchange the brothers out here. But I'm gonna ask the question that
No.
needs to be asked. When it comes to marriage or relationships in general, how important or how much does finance matter? And I'll start with you, Ruth.
I think that it matters as a whole for a successful marriage, but I don't believe that when you enter into a marriage, are you entering in because of how much they make? Are you entering in because of their what connections they can get for you?
Right.
Are you entering because of what you can gain from the marriage? Or are you entering because you're compatible with that person emotionally, um, sometimes financially, but sometimes it takes for us to uplift the other person in a marriage. That is what a marriage is about. It's about a give and take. And I think in this day and age, people don't see that that's what a marriage is about. They go in with um, that thought of the idea that what can you do for me? What can I get from you? How can you
Hmm.
empower my personal life? There's no that's why people go into marriages, they don't mix their finances for that exact reason,
Mm.
because they're like, well, what can I get from you? And that's an escape route from the very beginning. That's why
Oh
they
wow.
don't mix those things from the very beginning. So I mean, I
That's a
think
good
that
outlook.
I think that overall economically, um, it is something that is necessary in a marriage, but that should not be the deciding factor, because
Finances.
yeah, that should not be the deciding factor.
Okay. And Joy, what's your take on it? Says
I
finances
think
matter.
finance matters, when you're in the moment, but the end result, what you're passing on intergenerationally, what matters honestly is education. You could lose money, like even if
Hmm.
your
Right.
family started off as rich, maybe making or millionaires, you can lose that million any day. You'll never be able to take away someone's education. And for the black community, that accounts for a lot. We really do. That is something that we really do have to keep passing on to our children in order to even strengthen our communities, thereby helping to strengthen black marriage, and even
Right.
helping people get married. When two people get married, they get married. Usually, they get married for someone on the same economic level. Even though statistics show that black women I have been marrying below their educational attainment, still that's something. If we could get, I don't know, if we could get black families to marry or get educational upward mobility, that's what I want to say. If we can get upward mobility in terms of
Right.
education, then we'll be able to continue to pass on that wealth. Even when you have a college degree, you'll still be able to earn, a certain amount of money. You're essentially passing on that idea to your children. So while finances matter in the moment, what matters ultimately is how much education you both have. And how much of that education can you pass on to your children? And how can they pass that on to their children? Because
Hmm.
again, with finances, yes, it matters in the moment, but at the same time, you can lose a million in a day. We've all seen it, but you can never take away someone's education.
Wow. That is powerful. And with only a short amount of time that I have left, um, before I let you go, Joy, please let our Conscious Vibe watchers and viewers know how they can contact you and or should I say, follow your blogs or social media?
I'm all over the web. Joy said it.
Okay. Awesome.
That's how you can follow me. Joy said it.
Got you. No problem at all. And Joy, I'm gonna let you go, and I'm definitely gonna bring you back because I really feel that there's other things that we can discuss that we discuss a lot offline. And are you when you coming back to San Diego?
Uh, Pretty soon. My mom's still out there, and she wants to see our new baby, so we'll be out there soon, probably the next few months.
Awesome. Keep in contact with me, and also congratulations on your newborn, and
Thank
also
you.
you are a great inspiration not only to me but I know to black people in general, considering how successful you are and how successful your marriage is. Thank you for coming to the show, and I'll contact you offline.
Thank you, and thank you, Ruthie Chris, too.
Thank you. Good meeting you, Joy.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, Ruthie, I know you probably have more to say, and I'm gonna give you that time. And go ahead.
Not a whole lot. But I did agree with Joy that you can't take that education away, and finances can be turned around in a matter of minutes. But what I do believe is because I come from a family of entrepreneurs,
Awesome.
it's a little different for me. So um, I don't promote you have to get education, education, education.
Right.
While education is great, I promote gaining knowledge,
Getting know.
gaining knowledge, because when I was growing up, I didn't see my mom going to get an education and then to go get a job. What she did was she took the knowledge that she had and she took that into the entrepreneur arena. So I believe that it's not all about economics. I don't believe that marriage is about that. I believe that it's how can the two of you grind together.
Right.
What can you put in? What can you bring to the table? How can I lift you up where you're falling short? And how can you lift me up where I'm falling short? It's about the grind together.
Okay. Now, one thing that's been a common thread amongst black men and black women specifically in some cases,
Hmm.
and I want to shed light on this because I think it's important. Now, you mentioned a key piece there, lifting you up while you're down, right?
Hmm.
What about this? What about the narrative that it's not the black woman's job to uplift the black man? How do you feel about that?
I disagree with that.
Why so?
I disagree because anytime you're in a relationship, a committed relationship, not just somebody that you are um, dating for a couple of months or
Okay.
however long, but I believe that is absolutely it is the job of the black woman to uplift the black man, or the job of both parties, whatever race you are, to
Right.
uplift the other. And the reason I say that is because if you fall in one area and I don't uplift you, then who am I? Who am I able to count on you, or do I need to go somewhere else to get? Do I need to go somewhere else to get that support that you should be giving me? I mean, it's a give and take. That's what a marriage is, isn't it? It's not you do your thing, I do my thing, and then we come together and have dinner together and then we go our separate ways. That's not a marriage. It is absolutely your job to uplift. It is absolutely your job to be a ride or die, to pick up those four wheels and walk with it when you on four flats. It is absolutely your job.
And when you say your job, it's saying both ways.
Both ways, absolutely.
Okay. Not one sided where the man has to do it all.
Absolutely. It
Okay.
is the woman's job as well as the man.
That is a fresh view because, like I said before, in the black community, a large portion in the black community is like, the black man is a deadbeat dude because, say, for instance, he don't make enough money to keep the black woman at home and raise the children. Or, for
Hmm.
instance, the black man struggling to where only way he's gonna be able to feed and house his wife and kids unless he got to go out and get 2, 3 jobs. You know what I mean? Do you think that's a shared responsibility?
Absolutely. We are not in the 40s. We're not in the 50s. We are in 2017. And it is the job of both people in the home to make sure that that family is taken care of. While the man does have responsibilities as the head of the home, he does have those, but it is absolutely the woman also has responsibilities as the woman of the home. And we're not going to have a Bible study here.
I understand, but I mean, we're covering a lot of ground. Because, like I said before, and this one I'm going to text you on next week before I'm going ready to close out too. But this is the whole point of what I'm saying here is that there's a common narrative amongst black men that marriage is not beneficial to black men because we have to do it all. And if we don't do it all, the marriage or relationship that we're in is dormant and is dead. This is the common narrative going on amongst black men. Also, when it comes to marriage, black men look at it as, well, if I can't, should I say, meet her standards, regardless of what my standards are, if I can't meet her standards, I have to worry about her going to, should I say, leaving the house to go with someone else. I have to worry about her stepping outside the marriage to get the things that meet her standards it's because I'm struggling to do so. Not that I don't care, but that I'm struggling to do so. It seems like struggle when it comes to the black women in some cases, not all. It seems like struggle when it comes to the black woman is not a logical excuse in terms of black men not performing and living up to standards. And to that you say.
I think that when it comes to black men saying, oh, I can't live up to her standards, I think that that's a cop out. I really do. And I think that it's a cop out because it all goes back to communication.
Yes.
How are you communicating with one another?
I agree.
Like I said, I've been married for almost 12 years.
Right.
When I got married, I knew my husband all of 45 days.
Wow.
And we are going on 12 years now. But it's the understanding of each other, is having that door open where we're able to communicate with one another. I communicate every single thing that comes to mind. He communicates every single thing that comes to mind. It's having that door open in marriage that gives you that success in your marriage. Is that communication. It all goes back to communication. How are you communicating with one another? It has nothing to do with her standards because I have very high standards, but it's our communication.
It's communication. And on that note, Ruthie Q, thank you for being on Konscious Vibe. I'm definitely going to bring you back because I feel we got a dynamic here. We have some symmetry here. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely going to bring you back and we can definitely take on some more topics. But with that being said, folks, you're listening to Konscious Vibe. Your host, your brother, Melvin X Graham, KBOKradio.com, every Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you very much for listening and tuning in. Your brother, Melvin X. Ashe, Hotep, Assalamu alaikum, and peace. Take care, family. That's a wrap.
That was fun.
That was fun. I want to bring you back. She's off. Should I say got her off early. Thank you so much. You know what I mean? Thank you. I was so nervous.